All right, welcome back to this episode of the How to Get a Job podcast. This is going to be an amazing episode, specifically if you're a high achieving woman and maybe you're interested in learning more about what does it look like to build your career in an industry that is male dominated. And to talk about this and how to break into those careers, how to make multiple six figures into those careers, I have Richa Bansal, and she is a career strategist and a founder of Pink Careers. Richa, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am very good, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me to speak with the audience. I'm excited for our conversation today.
I am as well. I am as well. I know that we are a mutual career coaches as friends. Uh, Varun has spoken very highly of you, so I'm super excited to just dive into this conversation. But I'm super interested into understanding what led you to start your career in a male-dominated industry, and then ultimately how did that end up turning into you now making that your full-time job to helping others, other females do the same.
Being my association with being in male dominated industries and careers and environments and spaces really go back to 2005, right? When I first started
Mhm.
undergrad. In fact, when I did my undergrad, so I went to IIT Delhi, which is one of the top engineering schools in India for my undergrad. I wanted to do mechanical engineering. I have
Yep.
always been like that hands-on, like that tomboyish type of person growing up, and I
Yep.
just saw myself like tinkering with toys and tools, as I go to engineering school and I build a career from there. And I remember when I was in that place where we have to decide what subjects to take. So like back in India, you work through an exam and you get a ranking. You have to decide what type of engineering you want to study. I said
Yep.
mechanical engineering, and I remember to the day the professor was helping folks decide this. He said, "Richa, no, like women don't take mechanical engineering. Don't take mechanical. Women don't take mechanical." I was like, "Okay, that's what I'm going to take." And I found myself to be the only woman in a class of 67 in my first year until like in the second year, another lady decided to join. And so like all of 4 years, the minority person in the room. And then I joined Schlumberger, which is one of the leading oil and gas services companies in the world. And there again, I have worked in field operations, I worked in engineering management. I've also taken up roles in manufacturing, supply chain, all the while finding myself to be one of the only women around the leadership table. And so from there, when I graduate, when I transitioned to Amazon, so from Schlumberger, I transitioned to Amazon, I could see that at the leadership table, it was some men. Yes, the head of HR role was held by a woman, but like the rest of the leadership table was all men. And like it's time that we change that narrative. Like women are equally capable. What I have done, other people can do too. Other women can do too. And that is what led me to start Pink Careers. That is what led me to do the work that I do now to support other um, mid-career women, other high-achieving women break into tech roles, break into leadership roles in male-dominated industries like tech, finance, oil and gas, and so on. So
I think that's awesome, and I love your story. I just wrote it down. One of 67 people in your mechanical engineering class, and you're the only female. And um, I think that's super interesting because obviously that might have a lot of challenges. But I have wanted to ask you, like, how did you deal with maybe the imposter syndrome that you might have dealt when you're like, hey, I look around and no one else looks like me.
so oftentimes that imposter syndrome was very real. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But every time the imposter syndrome wanted to take over, I reminded myself that if I'm smart, okay, and I'm smart and I'm intelligent and I'm at the table. So if I'm smart, if I have this question, somebody like I'm doing the other person a favor by asking it. I'm
Yeah.
smart, so if I have this question, then somebody else has it too, right? So, and I'm just helping them out. And just always reminded myself that I am at the table for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I bring value to the table, so it's like my responsibility to share what I'm doing. It's my responsibility to ask questions, and this responsibility to contribute, and like always strive for that next level opportunity. And that narrative, that reminder, that constant sort of like you have to be your biggest advocate, right? So that
Sure.
constant reminder, that constant self advocacy helped me squash down the imposter syndrome so that I could continue like marching forward.
Yeah, no. So let me ask you a question. Let's say, uh, I'm a female. I'm actually going to put my wife in this conversation, and because my wife's also in a male dominant industry. She's in finance, so she's in finance and banking. She's she's a VP of customer relationships for BNY. So I think a lot about her, and she mentions that there's a lot of like it's a male dominant industry. It's changing a lot. I think banking is changing a lot. So I wonder on your end, if a female is listening to this podcast, Richa, and they're maybe at starting their career at a really like at an industry like oil and gas or finance, right? What advice do you have when they're about to have conversations with their bosses or their managers or HR about them being able to communicate their values, or like not values, but like how do you think they should be navigating that conversations?
So even before we get to what kind of conversations they should have with their managers, with their HR, with their company, I think it's important to first establish that if somebody is in a male-dominated industry, if a female is a male-dominated industry, they should first and foremost, as soon as they're starting out, seek mentors. Okay, seek
Mm-hmm.
mentors that are two step ahead of you. That may be informal mentors that you may look up to in your company, in your friend circle, but maybe even potentially coaches. Okay,
Yeah.
and I know like you and I are coaching, so it's not that I'm trying to sell coaching, even though we fully like lean into it. But the reason I say that is because that's what I did too. Like when I was starting out, I needed to find other women who look like me, and unfortunately, some of the women who are at the highest levels in the C-suite at the time, as a fresh graduate or somebody who's just starting off in the industry, it's hard to relate with them. So seek out somebody who's two steps ahead of you so that you can also better understand how to navigate the conversations that need to happen in that particular company, in that particular organization. How do you speak with management in a way that that will put your value to the table? Okay, so there are like some things that you can do on your own, but there are certain like these external nuances as well that you can learn from following the path of what the mentors and the coaches have followed that are two steps ahead of you. Okay, back to that conversation on how do you actually position your worth to the management, how do you actually pitch yourself and advocate for yourself for that next level promotion. First of all, continue to remind yourself, leaning back to what I said earlier, that this company is lucky to have you. Okay, if they've brought you to that meeting, if you are part of this meeting, there is a reason that you're part of this
Mm-hmm.
meeting, right? They want to hear from you. Otherwise, there was no reason for somebody else to spend that time and that real estate in the meeting for you. Okay, so like that
Mm-hmm.
reminder helps. And then I recommend that everybody should have what I call monthly career conversations in place with their management, like with their immediate manager. So everybody is aware, everybody has been told to have these weekly or bi-weekly meetings with management where we all typically talk about day-to-day projects. We give updates, like status updates on a on the day-to-day work that is going on. But in addition to that, I recommend everybody to set a monthly career conversation where the focus should solely be on you and your growth in that organization. Okay, or your growth to that next level role. And that's an opportunity for you to have that direct line of sight with your manager and be on the same page around, this is my 12 months to 3 year to 5 year career aspirations. Okay, in 3 years from now, I see myself leveling up to a director of product management role.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm currently a senior product manager. How do I get there? Okay, co-create the career conversation is a place for you to co-create those goals with your manager, for you to get feedback on a monthly basis. How far you are from the milestones, what do you need to get support from your manager, who else do you need to speak with, what kind of skill set you need to add to your toolbox. Okay, are you delivering on the KPIs that will ensure that promotion will come or that opportunity will come for you to level up to the director of product management? What kind of additional scope you need to get, what are you doing well, what can you be doing different? And what that monthly career conversation also helps is for you to know ahead in time whether you can continue pursuing this internal promotion opportunity or whether it's time for you to seek external opportunities.
Yeah. I love so much of what you shared. And I kind of want to just like highlight some points that I think is super important for the audience to kind of take away. That one of them was you talked about having mentors and coaches, and you're absolutely right. Like, the best way to reach any goal is to learn from someone who's done it. And especially if you're in a situation where there isn't many people that have done it and have walked your path. And so definitely find mentors within your company, ideally, that can do that. And then understanding the difference between a mentor, an advocate, and a coach. And we can dive into that a little bit too, but it's important because they play different roles, right? I agree with you on the coaching side. I think that, you know, in terms of coaching, there isn't many things that give you a better return investment than working with a good coach. And I say good coach because it's working with someone who has a proven track record and helping people achieve that particular goal. And if you even look at it, like if you know, the Olympics are coming this summer, right? And they're going to be in Paris. And if you were to be in Paris during the time and you run into an Olympic athlete, if you were to ask any Olympic athlete that's there if they have a coach, 110% of them will say absolutely. So what makes us think that the best of the best in their craft have a coach, but why couldn't we have a, if anything, we need more coaches than they do, right? Um,
I think
so
we have to address the elephant in the room. And let me like put it out there, and especially for women. And typically, like the clients that I work with, they typically come from an Indian background or they're women of color, and there's just such a taboo around coaching and therapy and getting support, okay, to unblock the things that are blocking you in your career, in your job search, with your mindset, right, with your strategy. We invest in doctors. Like if you have a stomach ache, you run to a doctor.
yep,
You find a specialist. And as you rightly said, every single expert, every single leader, every single CEO, every single athlete has a coach, and they seek out the best and the best of the coaches because they recognize that coaching is not helpful when you are like stuck necessarily in some place. Coaching is necessary when you're going at 100%, you want to go at 1,000%.
yep, yep. There's just no way. It's such a good point. Like every executive in corporate America, every CEO, it's like the higher you get to reaching those massive level of success, the more it's like, of course, it's not should you have a coach, it's which coach you're gonna have. But the earlier on, it's like we're too good. So like, how are we too good for a coach earlier in our career? But when we get to those high levels, it's like mandated. Like it's like the board of directors says you need to be working with that, and you need to be paying for those things. And so to me, I think that's a hack. It's like it's total hack, and it's normalizing coaching. That's one point. The second point I think that you pointed out a lot of is having those monthly conversations with your manager. And that's something that anybody should do, male, female, brown, white, Hispanic, black. It doesn't matter. You should be having those conversations and being intentional about your career. And if we think that HR or our company, because it's one of the best places to work for, is going to do that, sure, some companies are better than others to do that. But the reality is that you need to own at a minimum 51% of your career. And having those conversations, setting clear expectations with your manager to say, okay, what does it take for me to hit above expectations, to exceed expectations? What do I need to do? What are some of the KPIs? What are some of the things that need to happen for me to be able to then continue to get promoted and climb this corporate ladder? And then having those checkpoints are just crucial, like are just really important, so that at the end of the year and you have that yearly review, you're not disappointed with a 2% raise.
Absolutely. Like a year-end review should never be a surprise. And I
Yeah.
love what you said about you should be owning at least 51% of your career. And I routinely say if you are not owning your career, your manager will, your HR will, heck, the economy will own your career. You
Yeah.
can see right now in today's market, the economy is driving a lot of people's careers, right?
Yep.
A lot of people that I speak with, lots of women that I speak with, they tell me, "Oh, Richa, like I'm just gonna like sit tight and wait for the economy to get better. Nobody's really hiring right now." But really, what you're doing, you're giving the power in the economy's hand right now. And the people who say no, like I am going to position myself to be the best candidate in the market, okay? And I fully recognizing the market is tighter right now than it was in like 2020, the beautiful times of 2021, 2022. They're the one who's winning. Like
Yep.
yesterday, one of my clients landed a 250K offer, okay,
Wow.
with the company, which on the first call, like the first introductory call they had, they told her clearly, bluntly, that you don't have the SaaS pricing experience you're looking for.
Mm.
And this lady knew, she anticipated that question because she obviously didn't have the SaaS pricing experience. And she was interviewing for a very senior role of pricing at this company. And she anticipated it, she prepared for it, she ensured that her stories clearly sold her as the best candidate for the role. And landed the opportunity. The offer just came in yesterday. So you have to own your career. You cannot be a victim either internally as you look at your next promotion, or as you're looking for your next opportunity outside in the market.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that you share that, and the fact that even though they told her that in the beginning, she ends up getting the offer anyways. That's incredible. Congrats to you and your client on that. I have a
Thank you.
question about, when we bring it back to like women in a male dominated industry, it could feel like that's a disadvantage, right? But let's flip the coin. Could that also be an advantage? Because like at least from my perspective, and I'm talking about me personally, Daniel Botero speaking, my biggest my biggest like competitive advantage sometimes could be my biggest disadvantage and vice versa. And I remember, so I started my career at PepsiCo back in 2012, right? So that's when I graduated college. And back during that time, the CEO of PepsiCo was Indra Nudi, and she was one of, I think, two women Fortune 500 CEOs. And if you don't know Indra, she is from India, actually. Her background is from India. She came from management consultant. She was the CFO of PepsiCo, got promoted to the CEO, and she had made an initiative of, and this is actually even before, where DNI was really big. This is back in 2012. So I think she was one of those innovators in pushing this agenda in corporate America. And I remember her putting a couple of statements of saying, one, we want our workforce to represent the communities that we serve. So if I'm in Florida, I'm in Orlando, Florida, and we have 24% Hispanic people, we wanted we wanted to try as much as possible that 24% of our workforce to be Hispanic. But that also similarly said, not just the level entry roles or the sales reps or the people who are working in the factories or in the supply chain, but we wanted managers to also do that. So we wanted, and so I remember the statistic, and I might be off by a couple of percentage. So for all the fact checkers out there, go ahead, give it to me. It's okay. I'm just trying to put the point out here. Um, it was 16% of managers and higher. So managers, directors, vice president up were women, yet women make about 50% of the population. So I remember her having a massive initiative of women, wanting 50% of women to be managers. And I think she gave the company 5 years to reach this goal. And to be honest, I remember applying for a promotion and being passed down, rightfully or wrongfully full. It doesn't even matter at this point. But because they were trying to trying to promote more women to hit this quota goal, which led to that. And that's not a bad thing. To me, like, honestly, I think that's great. But my point is, if you're a woman, especially if you're a minority woman in PepsiCo in the 2012 to 2000, I would say 16, those 4 or 5 years, you would have gotten promoted heavily, like much easier than if you didn't. How do you feel about that? And how do you see that as a woman? And that's not even about like getting the politics side of it, but more than anything, do you think there's a strategy, if I am a female, to say, what are the companies that maybe have some of those initiatives, and should I be applying to those companies knowing that might be able to elevate the corporate ladder faster?
I would say take the unfair advantage.
Mm.
Take the unfair
Yeah.
advantage. Okay. When I had started Pink Careers, this is like back in 2019. Pink
Yeah.
Careers started as a blog. Okay. And the very first blog post that I put out there was titled, somebody can still go search it up. It said that being the only woman in the room, why being the only woman in the room is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
The first ever podcast that I recorded with a friend in the oil and gas industry was all about why being the woman or being the only one woman in the room is your biggest edge, right? Because people are underestimating you. People are
Mm.
underestimating you. They're not expecting you to take charge. They're not expecting you to do what they think is possible for a man to do, right? So take advantage of that. Take advantage of being underestimated. And also, to your point, the story that you shared right now, take the unfair advantage, because everybody has some sort of unfair advantage, right? So in the example that you shared at PepsiCo or whatnot, there are certain companies where they have a certain mandate to promote a certain number of women. Okay, so what? There are other companies that have a mandate to promote a certain race, for example. There are other
Mhm.
companies that have a mandate. to have representation wherever they operate in terms of the ethnicity, right? Like a Schlumberger, for example, they had a mandate around the company that I worked for the longest time around we hire in where we operate, right?
Mhm.
In there are cohorts inside a company where Indians promote Indians, right? um, French promote French, and so that you would somebody or let's put it, everybody has an unfair advantage of some sort. You have to find what that unfair advantage is and get your foot in the door. And once you get your foot in the door, you now have an equal playing ground. Then prove yourself. Go 150%. Okay, go beyond the minimum
Yeah.
and really prove why it was worth it to bring you to the table.
Yeah.
Okay, but like
No,
take the unfair advantage.
I,
Why
I
not?
would I would totally agree. I would even say, in a sense, exploit it. Like if I'm giving advice in that scenario, I would be like, okay, if I am trying to help a woman get go up, I'll be like, what are the companies that have made those public claims, have made those announcements that are maybe trying because they're trying to do that, and I would apply to those companies. And part of the reason why they're making those announcements is because they want to attract more women talent in the first place. So they want you to apply there, and they want to do it. And I think I even posted about it today. Like, one of the six biggest lessons that I learned at PepsiCo, one of them, especially in corporate America, is that visibility is more important than ability in a lot of cases. Just because you get a shot that maybe you wouldn't have gotten it. And I would even say, like, I know many people, including my wife, that made this mistake early in her career, where you assume that in America, that if I just put my head down and work, that people will just notice me and promote me. And that's not the case. Like, the case is that when you are one of 10,000, one of 100,000, one of a million workers, I think Amazon has like a million workers, right? Like, they're like the size, they're bigger than the size of Austin, Texas, the city. Like, you need to do some level of promotion. Now, there's a fine line between cockiness and confident, but you need to be able to network, build these relationships, and be part of those ERG groups. Have those conversations with your manager, because if you're not advocating for yourself and you're expecting people to see your work, it's gonna help. You obviously need to do the work. You still need to be good,
Can
but
I
if you
share a story? Can I
yeah
share a story with
yeah
you? Right? Like, and this was my hardest learning, hardest learning that really propelled all the work that I do with Pink Careers. So way back in 20, like I want to say like 2015, 2016 timeframe, when I was still a young mechanical engineer, I was ready for my promotion. Like I was doing whatever needed to be done, was hitting all the goals, exceeding all of the reviews. My management told me, yes, 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 you're ready. But the way it worked at my company was they said, you let me, we recognize that you are ready for the promotion. We're going to find that next opportunity for you. Okay. So you just let us know what kind of roles you're interested in. We'll find that next role for you.
yeah
And said, okay. Like I trusted them, and 3 months passed, like nothing really happened. So I check in again and say, oh, we're still looking. HR says we're still looking. There's nothing there right now. And then another 3 months pass, still nothing. Another 3 months pass, now 9 months down, and I'm getting frustrated. Like I'm doing everything. Why is nothing moving? And then I found out that a guy, in my team who was junior to me, had less experience, he found himself a manager position in a completely different organization with a pay raise and everything else. And then when I asked him, like, how? Like, how do you even know about this role? Oh, I networked my way through it to that role. Okay, so he leveraged his unfair advantage. Networking, referral, advocacy, they're all unfair advantage. He leveraged his unfair advantage to get that position while I was waiting to be handed over my fair share of that promotion and that recognition, right? That was my biggest learning. That if you want to be recognized, again, whether be in, a promotion internally, whether like even outside in the market, right? You have to find ways of taking that unfair advantage through leveraging your network, through positioning yourself in a way that positions you for that opportunity at that next level. You have to find those pockets of unfair advantage for yourself. Okay, because nobody is going to just hand you that role, that position, simply because you have the skills. Everybody
yeah
has the skills and experience.
yeah
At least all the clients that I work with have the skills and the experience, right? So it all comes down to how you're positioning it, how you're leveraging those back doors, some of those positions that are not even open right now at
yeah
times.
it's important to know, like, there's always going to be people who have very similar skill sets all throughout. And if whether you're got here in college, or you've been here and grew up like me, I got here when I was 9 years old. All right, I remember, like, even thinking about going from college or high school to college. you're okay. We all have 4.0 GPAs. I didn't, but I'll think about people who did. But they have 4.0 GPAs. What differentiates you is what everything else that you do. So it's the same thing when you get to corporate America, and it only gets harder as we get to the top because only less and less roles. There's only one CEO, right? There's less and less roles than there is. It is like a pyramid in corporate America, and so I do think that when everything else is equal, when we all have good performance, we all have good technical skills, you need to be able to differentiate yourself and find those situations that are your competitive advantage. And so I love everything that you're sharing here so far. Richa, question for you. What any other advice, maybe a topic or something that maybe we haven't covered that it's really important for maybe women who are interested in going into really male dominant industries because they want it, maybe utilize their advantage, or maybe are in that industry and they are not thinking or not really using that as an advantage?
Yeah, I would love to share some tips around how to position yourself
Yeah,
for that next level opportunity in male dominated industries. And one of the most common mistakes that I see women doing, which is underselling themselves as they're seeking that next opportunity outside of the company.
yeah.
Okay. So, first off, all of the conversation that we had so far hopefully will help the women understand how can they better position themselves for internal promotion. But at some point you have to make that recognition for yourself, that decision that my growth in this in this company that I'm in right now is limited for whatever reason, right? For whatever factors. And
Mm-hmm.
it's time for me to now seek a position outside. And in that, I find a lot of my clients making the mistake to undersell themselves and either try to make like a lateral move and sometimes even like take a step down in compensation and title simply because they feel like they have lost some of that confidence being in a certain role for a long time, or they may feel, but I have only managed this little bitty of scope, so how do I rake up against all of these other like hundreds and at this point like even sometimes thousands of candidates. I remember a role at Netflix, there was like 4,000 candidate applications that LinkedIn was showing, right? And so if you are not even putting the application in, you're self rejecting, you're underselling yourself. Okay, if you are accepting a move with a compensation that's at par or lower, you're underselling yourself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to share some tips around that.
Yeah,
If, yeah,
please. Yeah.
absolutely. And so I think it really, really just starts with positioning yourself at that next level by choosing the right vocabulary for yourself. Okay, like right vocabulary for yourself. So first of all, you have to come back to that mindset that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. Any company is lucky to have me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to really lean into that mindset that when I jump in the market, regardless of the 4,000 applications that we have on this particular role, the company is going to pick me because I have the exact skill set, I have the exact experience that will allow me to hit the ground running and really like take this role to the next level. So any company is lucky to have me. And once you lean into that mindset, really use high level vocabulary to elevate your resume, your LinkedIn, retool your interview stories to position you less as an executionist and more as a strategist.
Yep.
And that's like a mistake. And I'm speaking like particularly at this point to like the mid to senior career women, somebody who has like 5 years of experience or so. Like you have developed that skill set. You have certain skills that you've built into your toolbox already that you can start to think about next level work. Okay, think about what work your manager does. Okay, think about like yes, you are doing the execution, but also how are you feeding into the strategy. Okay, elevate your vocabulary, build in more business results, you know build in more numbers, talk about how the work that you do tie into the revenue, the profit margins of the company. Okay, how they tie it to the big business goals, and really like elevate your positioning with your resume, with your LinkedIn, and through your stories to ensure that you're not underselling yourself. Okay, and the third and the final step is when you get to salary negotiations, do not accept, ladies, do not accept the first offer at the table. Do not accept the first offer at the table. Okay, negotiate. It doesn't matter if you've taken a career break or a maternity break and you've been out of market for 8 months. That doesn't give the company the free will to make penny pinch and give you an offer and expect that you will take that first offer. So do not undersell yourself in the negotiation process.
Those
Negotiate.
are some amazing tips. I would even say that's in America per se. Like if you negotiate politely, like I've never heard anybody lose an offer because of it. Like the worst thing they can tell you is no, unfortunately, this is what we have. But most of the time, I've seen clients easily be able to negotiate anywhere between a 3 to 10%, even more. And if you think about what that is, you just gave yourself a promotion just
Absolutely.
by doing
And,
that.
and remember, like, you can, it's not just the compensation that you can negotiate.
Yep.
First of all, like, compensation is broken into so many different elements. So don't just over fixate on salary, like look at your overall compensation. But literally, like, at least three of my clients have negotiated their titles.
Yep.
Okay. Like one client negotiated their title from data scientist to senior data scientist. One negotiated from project coordinator to project manager, right? Because what that's going to do is, as soon as you have that new title, even for a few months, is already levels up your positioning in the market. So
Yep.
now the next role that you seek is going to be that two levels higher
Yeah.
than
No.
where you were before, right? So don't just also over fixate on negotiating compensation. If you see truly there isn't room to negotiate a compensation, work on negotiating other pieces of your offer. One of my clients negotiated a 60-day notice period for layoff. He was an H1. So for him, like any extra day in his notice period
It's massive. Yeah.
adds
Yeah,
up.
yeah. No, I love it. Or even just simply negotiate an extra signing bonus or relocation bonus or extra week of vacation, like especially if you have your families in a different country, or even negotiating a simple thing. I was like, can I work from anywhere for 2 weeks? Like imagine if you could do that and then go back to your country. I think that's something that they're just, again, we assume that only thing we can negotiate our salary, but like I think that by itself should be a reason to work with a coach, someone that can help you understand what your market is worth and say like, hey, that's a good offer, but I think you can do better, right? And anyways, Richard, before we wrap it up, I would love if you could share a little bit more about. I think you have a leadership accelerator. You have, how do somebody listening to this, any women that are looking to get promoted or make a career pivot, can you tell us a little bit more about who you serve and how they can connect with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work primarily with mid-career women, as we said, like in mostly male-dominated industries, helping them land their next 200K plus leadership
Yeah.
opportunity. Okay, whether that be internal promotion or externally in the market.
Mhm.
And I work with my clients in a one-on-one capacity, and then I also have a group job search accelerator program. And again, our goal is to make sure that you get the title, the salary, and the impact that you truly deserve for the experience and expertise that you have. So that's the work that I do, and anybody who is interested to learn more about me and the work that I do and is interested to really invest in themselves, hit me up on LinkedIn. You can find me if you search Richa Bansal, I'll show up. So connect with me on LinkedIn and or DM me and let's have a chat.
Awesome. Rich, so we will go ahead and put Rich's LinkedIn, her website, all her information underneath on the show notes. So make sure that if you're interested, you connect with her and follow up. If you are listening to this, if you have not yet liked and subscribed this, if you find any value in this, we don't run any ads in this podcast. So the price of this podcast is that you just pass the goodwill on to somebody else. If you know someone that could use this episode, maybe someone that's in a male dominated industry, somebody who's maybe vented to you saying, hey, I feel like all my coworkers don't understand me. This would be a great episode to share. If you share with one person, that would be worth more than anything that you can imagine. So again, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and catch you guys on the next episode.
Thank you, Daniel.